This show has been rated F for freaky. Content rated by Redbone Productions.
This is Lee and Tiffany Lakosky and Don and Candy Kiske, two of the most dedicated, hardcore, fanatical hunting duos sharing one passion: to manage and harvest mature trophy whitetails.
Holy buckets!
The secrets to their success? Plant food plots, monitor trail cameras, shed hunt, and most importantly, let immature bucks walk. Now they've searched the nation and found your average Joes with real jobs and real families, all sharing the same passion.
Oh, I don't even understand. I'm so excited. Yes, yes, yes.
In this episode, we go in the field with the king freak himself, Mr. Lee Lakosky, and see firsthand what his secrets are to knocking down Mac Daddy super freak whitetails.
Now these blinds work awesome.
What lies within is the golden egg in Wonkatania. But there are no chocolate rivers and everlasting gobstoppers here.
Yes.
This episode is all about busting big whitetails and showing the secrets on how to do it. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Willy Wonka.
Hey, there he is.
This is Whitetail Freaks, Daddy-O.
Yes!
Freaks.
We just smoked a monster!
Whitetail Freaks. Whitetail Freaks.
The time is late November. The rut is on its downward leg, and the resident whitetails in southern Iowa are hitting the food sources to prepare for the upcoming cold winter. Founding freak Mr. Lee Lakosky knows that hunting the food sources during this period is key. And positioned in a ground blind among a cut cornfield, Lee knows it's a matter of time before deer activity heats up.
The 8 points, walking the 10 point off the field, and it goes off to the right, and all of a sudden I look and there's a giant rat coming out. You know, it's starting to get dark. I'm like, holy cow, look at that one. And he'd come out, you know, didn't have a care in the world about the other bucks, very non-aggressive deer. And he just came out and started feeding. And I was like, man, that's a definite shooter. But there's a big rise, and he's probably 80 yards away, and there's a rise down below, and he started eating right there. I was just like, he's never gonna make it up in front of me in enough daylight. And but then, you know, he started to come. He started to kind of come up the hill a little bit. Then he got in there with another little buck, and they sat there licking each other for, gosh, it must have been 2 minutes, and the light's fading. I was like, he's never gonna make it up here. And then all of a sudden, he just turns and starts walking in front of us. You know, it's just last light. I'm like, come on, come on. I got my rangefinder up and ranged him. It was just like at 50 yards, and I was like, okay, we can do this. We got enough light, we got enough camera light. Let's go ahead and do it.
With the release of the arrow, this is where the story begins. We travel to the big city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, to the stomping grounds of the head freak himself, Mr. Lee Lakosky.
You know, people may think that I was born with huge whitetails in my backyard, or, you know, born with a silver antler in my mouth, so to speak, but not the case. This was my backyard. So I grew up right in Minneapolis. I mean, it was 7 miles, the IDS Tower, Crochet Tower, all the, you know, the big Minneapolis was 7 miles from my back door. I mean, we didn't live in farm country. We didn't live, you know, with deer in our backyard, but we didn't have to go too far, you know, 20, 30 miles north to start getting into some farm country. Well, here's the old neighborhood. You know, it looks so small to me now. It's all my best friends' houses growing up as a kid. Roy Harchin, Darren Kitts, Kip Russell, and my best friend Paul down the block. But as you can see, it's not exactly the mecca of deer hunting around here. It's literally 7 miles from the IDS Tower, but this is where it all began. Here's my house, old 5128 4th Street. You know, not a lot of deer around here, but I spent a lot of days growing up dreaming of shooting a big deer in this house right here.
When we return, we pick up the story as Lee hunts southern Iowa. See what happens next when Whitetail Freaks continues. This segment of Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by Antler King. Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by Bill Jordan's Realtree, Family, Friends, and the Outdoors, Matthew's Solo Cam, Catch Us If You Can, G5, Designed to Hunt, Thompson Center Arms, America's Master Gunmaker, Benelli, Simply Perfect.
Well, this is the house that I grew up in, old 5128 4th Street, Columbia Heights, Minnesota. As you look around here, you can see it's not exactly the mecca of deer hunting, but hey, this is where all my dreams of killing a big whitetail started, right here. Let's go and take a look inside. Okay, the first room of the house that I spent most of my time in was the basement, and that was the only place that I could have all my deer magazines and all my antlers and guns and bow stuff. It looks a little different now, mind you, because it's changed a lot since I was a kid. But you can see some of the old antlers still here. I remember laying in bed at my house, you know, growing up as a teenager, and I couldn't sleep, just thinking about deer and thinking about, you know, this deer we saw over here, this deer we saw over there. And it'd be Friday night or something, and I'd be at 2 in the morning thinking about deer, and I'd get up and sneak out of the house, and I'd run down to Paul's house, and I'd throw pennies at his window. His bedroom was on the 2nd floor of his house. And I remember throwing that sash up. What the heck you doing? You know, it's 2 in the morning. I said, hey man, let's get out hunting tomorrow. You know, I hadn't talked to him earlier in that week. You know, hey, let's go hunting tomorrow. So all right, so meet me at 4:15 at you know, my garage and pick me up, and we'd go out. I mean, and just then that was it for me. Just when we had the freedom that Paul got his driver's license, we could get out and start bow hunting. I mean, that was it. I mean, to me, that was, I could have died then and been happy.
That's right. Lee grew up in suburbia. As this fanatical whitetail hunter matured, he got a grown-up job as a chemical engineer and met and married young Tiffany Profont. Can't say I blame him there. Way to go, bro. Hubba hubba. Lee decided to follow his dream, packed the family, and moved into no man's land. And no man's land is the perfect place for one thing: managing and hunting huge white-tailed deer.
These blinds were awesome. I mean, as far as being comfortable, being able to move, making sure, you know, that you can move around there without them seeing you. And plus, they really hold your scent in a while. But the big key is, unless you have these things sitting out, we got some blinds that we put up in turkey season and leave them all the way through the deer get used to them. But if you don't do that, like us, we may be even hunting this blind tonight, you got to really brush it in. We had just gotten back from Kansas, where, you know, Tiffany and I both shot some giant deer, so we're still on the high from Kansas. We just got our brand new DXT Matthews bows and took 2 giants out there. We come back, and you want to keep that momentum rolling. And it's late November. You know, you're at the peak of the rut, it's winding down, but that's when you're going to see a lot of your big deer on the back side of the rut. You know, during the peak of the rut, you get a lot of bucks running, chasing, but inevitably they're mostly 2 and 3-year-old bucks. Your big mature bucks don't do a lot of running and chasing, at least on my farm. You know, they're locked down, they've got the does, they don't have to run for them. When you start getting in the late part of November, that's when, you know, there's very few receptive does left. That's when you see your big ones up on their feet. Yes, perfect. I just smoked a giant 10-point. Yes! I think I hit him good. I just have a loom knot going. I started dropping, but I think he dropped right into it. If it's anything, it might be a little low. But I think I smoked him. Yes! I couldn't believe it. It was almost surreal. It's like I just shot, you know, 180 something inch deer in Kansas, you know, 3 days ago, and you come back to Iowa. I mean, it was almost unreal. You know, things don't happen like that, at least for me. I'm used to going to 50-something days without shooting something. So I shoot 2 big ones, you know, within a 7 to 10 days period or whatever that was, maybe even less. I can't remember, but you know, it was just, I couldn't believe it. Right there. Hey, there he is. Yes. right there. Oh, God. Look at that big old beam sticking up. Oh, what a beauty. And look at that. Yeah, that shot is just a little farther back than I would have thought. But look at that. That, yes! That is a huge Iowa 10-point right there. Look at that thing.
When we return, founding freak Lee Lakosky hunts the frozen state of Iowa. The food sources are the key. See what comes out when Whitetail Freaks continues. This segment of Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by She Safari. This segment of Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by True Glow.
Hit it!
Like most of us at Freak Central, we all got started hunting and fishing at a young age, and that just happens to be the case for Lee. Well, let's go back in time and pick up the story.
Well, this is my best friend, Paul Lambert's house. He lived just 3 houses down from us. He had an upper window up there. As teenagers, I'd come down at 2 in the morning. I'd be up thinking about deer and throw pennies at his window and wake him up and say, hey, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Let's go. Meet me and let's go hunting. And we'd go out hunting.
Memories like these live in just about every hunter. Hunting back then was simple. And this is where we pick up the story with Mr. Lee Lakosky.
Paul and I, he was a year older than me. And when he turned 16 and got his driver's license, I mean, we thought we were it. You know, we could get in the car and go hunting anytime we wanted to. And I remember one November day, Paul's dad it was his stand, and he went golfing that night. And Paul and I, hey, let's go out. So I dropped him off, and I went up about 3 miles down the road to another spot that I had. And I came back to pick up Paul, and he was just on pins and needles. He just shaking. I just shot a big buck. I go, how big was he? He's like, I don't know. You know, all I know he was big. So we get down and we start looking for this thing. He waited for me to get there, and we followed the blood trail, and we found this thing. I'm telling you, it was a giant. I mean, huge mass, like, almost 180-inch buck. And you're talking a couple of bumbling kids that don't know what the heck they're doing. And then, I mean, that changed my life basically forever. I mean, seeing this huge buck that I'd only seen in pictures. I didn't even know deer like that actually existed. And seeing that on the ground, that we could actually do it. There's deer here like this. But once he shot that giant deer, something just takes over inside. And it's like, I don't see a duck anymore. I don't see a goose anymore. My whole focus has been on whitetails. And that day that Paul and I, when he shot that giant buck, just totally changed my life forever.
As we move into the season, the next leg of the journey starts back in the preseason. This small 6-acre food plot is being planted by head freak Mr. Lee Lakosky.
Well, I just ran the chisel plow through this. You can tell it's the first step. It's real wet out here still, so at least this digs down about 12 inches, get some aeration in there so it should dry out. If it doesn't rain in a couple of days, I should be able to get back in here with the disc. But the most important thing, whenever you put a new food plot in, is check that pH. And here we got a Antler King, immediate results on your pH. And so many people come in here and do this. They try to do everything right, do the fertilizer, but if your pH is low, you're throwing your fertilizer away. If you're below 5, you're probably getting maybe less than 20% of the usage of your fertilizer, so you're throwing your money away. So first thing I ever do is check your pH, get the proper lime in here, get the most use out of your fertilizer. Fertilizer's expensive, you might as well use it.
The months of preparation may seem extensive for such a relatively small area, but in actuality, this food plot is positioned smack dab in prime big buck habitat. With that in mind, Lee knows the chances of a big buck surfacing will, sooner or later, come to this source, and the odds are in his favor. As this buck comes in, Lee knows who he is. In 2005, Tiffany passed this buck when he was a 3-year-old. It's been 2 years since, and nothing. Finally, in 2007, trail pictures capture the split G2 buck in the area. This is why Lee is hunting this stand.
He came into the field and he hung up at that scrape. He looked at the decoy and he looked at the decoy. It might have been just a little early. He wasn't, fired up. He wasn't aggressive at all. He just went back, scraped, turned around, and walked out of the field and walked up the hill. I hunted him a lot on those farms after that. He was the one deer that I wanted on that farm and never saw him again. and we weren't getting pictures of them down there anymore. So I just didn't know what happened to them.
We fast forward into the month of December. During this time of year, Iowa is cold, frozen. The countryside is covered in a sheet of ice. It's wet, dark, and everything is in survival mode. The weather report says it's the coldest season on record. Mr. Lee Lakosky knows the extreme elements are in his favor. Whitetails will be hitting the food sources hard, and with that knowledge, Lee is in hunt mode.
Hey, look, there's a big one coming right here. Big split G2 buck.
Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by Cuddy Bag, long battery life, fast trigger speed. Bad boy buggies, they'll never hear you coming. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. ScentLock, odor eliminating technology. Whitetail Properties, dreams to reality. This segment of Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by Wildlife Research.
Hit it!
Okay, Mr. Lee Lakosky's hunting the cold month of December in Iowa. With the tents dropping, I'm staying home. You're on your own, boys. So let's pick up the story and get back in the woods.
Kick it.
It started getting later and later, and all the other bucks that were coming out, it looked like everything that was out was going to come out, and they were all 3-year-old bucks. No other new bucks were showing up. I was like, you know what? Broken G2 and all. This is the buck that I've wanted all year. And out of the back of the bay comes the split G2 buck. I mean, this is a deer that I had seen in that same field. Tiffany was hunting, and she passed him 2 years ago as a 3-year-old. He's a 5-year-old now. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. And we finally started getting cutty back pictures of him again down on one of our bottom fields, and then he disappeared again for a month. And, you don't know if he got shot, if he's still alive. And this is a deer I had a lot of history with, pictures I've all seen. This was a deer that I wanted more than any other deer on the farm. I think I just smoked the split G2 buck. Yes! Man, we've been looking for that buck all year. And we just bought a brand new piece of property that we got an Antler King fall, winter, spring food plot about 600 yards straight east of here. And I got another Antler King honey hole field just about a couple 100 yards north of here. And we were getting pictures all early season of that split G2 buck down below. And I had one encounter of him on that field, and I had a decoy out, and he wouldn't come all the way in. And then I hadn't seen him all year. We come out here now, late season, you get snow, cold, weather like this, and this farmer's always been phenomenal for us late season. And once again, I'm not sure if the puff of smoke, but the way he was running out, it looks like he was hit hard. Look at that deer. Unbelievable. I've been waiting to get my hands on this old boy. Big split G2 buck. He broke his G2 off on this side, and I knew it. He had broke it off early, even when I had my encounter with him on the food plot down here with the bow. But this is a deer I wanted too bad. I mean, we got so many pictures of him. That good encounter of him down there. I mean, look at that. He's got great mass through there, great height on everything. And just when everything comes together, you plant the food plots, you do everything, you get the trail camera pictures of him, you know he's still alive, you know if he's not on your farm, he's nearby. When everything comes together, it's just no better feeling.
Whitetail Freaks is brought to you by ScentLock's Hit List. Lee Lakosky has done his homework, and the trail picks don't lie. His hit list includes Professor, Can Opener, Skyscraper, and Titanic. The search for these bucks begins now.
Wow, what a season, Lee. You did all the hard work by putting in the food plots and bringing in a buck known as a split G2 buck. He may not have came in, but you knew he was in the area, and you closed the chapter during the cold month of December. And finally, hunting from a ground blind put you in the hot seat in November. With a fading light, you made the shot count and put the buck on the ground. Hunting food sources during late season paid off, and once again, you had an incredible season. And hey, all of you out there in TV land, you want to remember this spot, because later in the season, a true monster makes his appearance there. Come back and check it out, you don't want to miss it.
There he is.
One thing has been proven today, and the truth is plain and simple. Lee Lakosky has done the homework, and his success has proven that the tools of shed hunting, planting food plots, monitoring trail cameras, scouting the velvet phase, and letting immature bucks walk are proven techniques that work. The antlers that hit the ground each season is the proof. With that, there's nothing more to say here. This is Whitetail Freaks.
It's getting hot out here. I'm wearing a big padded suit. 1,000 clothes. Got me a gold ticket though, brother.
Closed captioning provided by Hunter Safety System. Staying safe.